Hi, second grade teachers. My name is Kelly, and today I'm going to walk you through the Environmental Impact Unit Plan for second grade social studies. This is the final social studies unit of the year for second graders. This unit has 18 lessons and should take 19 to 23 days to complete the majority, plus a few extra for the summative assessment. There's a unit question map that outlines the unit. So as you can see, our compelling question is, how does the way we live impact our environment? We have 3 supporting questions for this unit. How do landforms and water features impact the location around it? The topics related to this question are the different types of landforms found in the United States, the use of maps, and Iowa's landforms and water features. Supporting question 2 is, how do people use the land and resources to produce goods? So some of the topics in this one are talking about renewable and non-renewable resources, different goods and services produced from natural resources, the resources available in Iowa, talking about scarcity, the difference between a good and a service, and how goods and services are provided. Supporting question 3 is, what can we do to protect our environment? In this one, we're talking about legislation for conservation, what kids can do to protect the environment, recycling, and maybe even water rock. There's a slideshow that can be used to help you move through the unit. The big focus for this final social studies unit is the impact that people make on the environment. This unit is split into 3 chapters. 1 chapter per supporting question. Chapter 1 lessons are called landforms and renewable and non-renewable resources. Students begin lesson 1 by taking a look at this picture. You can have students complete a WDIS or an I see, I think, I wonder, share out some of their findings, and then maybe even generate some questions off of the I wonders. Then present the compelling question and share that we're focusing on how the way we live impacts our environment. Lesson 2, we start breaking down the compelling question and take a look at supporting question 1, reminding students, of course, that supporting questions help us find the answers to the compelling question. Then you're going to spend some time learning about landforms. You can use the resource in TrueFlix or on Learn 360. There's a landforms and water features worksheet that you can have students complete to practice their learning. Lesson 3, we review these landforms, and then we start to try and figure out where they're located in the United States. For this one, you're going to want to open up Google Maps and play around with the different aspects of what you see. So in the 3D, you can rotate it, and the 2D will give you more of the flat terrain. The map on slide 5 can help you lead some discussion about how the environment can impact what happens in the communities in the area. For example, the tree up here would be a good time to talk about the lumber industry versus the fishing industry over on this side due to the coastal region. While you're talking about these two, discuss how these products would be transported to Iowa. The fish here would have to come across the Appalachian Mountains, which aren't too high, but would require a bit of work, versus the lumber is going to have to go through the Rockies. In lesson 4, we're focusing on how landforms and water features impact the location around it. Students could start by looking at this picture of Black Hawk Bridge in Lansing, Iowa. Give them time to notice different items that they see on the image. Ask if any people live in the area. Students should be able to say yes because the housing's in the picture. Ask what kind of things they might face living so close to a river. Flooding is a real concern in this area. You can also ask if this area makes it harder or easier to transport goods. Students might not know what this boat does here. This is a barge that can help push goods up and down the river. Up next, have students work with an Iowa map, either the outline or the one with the counties drawn in, and ask students to place in a key or legend and the compass rose. And there's a PebbleGo resource that you can use to help identify the different symbols that should be on the page. Remind students that the sides of Iowa are shaped by rivers, and then have students draw in and label the Mississippi and Missouri rivers on the map. Make sure they add a symbol for river in the key or legend. Lesson 5 is the formative assessment, in which students create a landform map of Iowa. Students should use the maps available for references. Chapter 2 lessons are all about natural resources. Lesson 6 begins with the sourcing worksheet, in which students figure out if it's a primary or secondary source, and then do the who, what, when, where, why, and how of its creation. Students will also want to figure out if this is mostly facts or opinions. Lesson 7, we review the 4 types of social scientists from our inquiry unit. And then again, we look at that same picture that we did in the previous lesson, and we figure out what types of questions each social scientist would ask about the picture. Then you move into a discussion on resources and goods, and you might want to start up the natural resources item from Learn 360 if you have some time. Lesson 8, we continue the natural resources video, or there are some texts that you can use on PebbleGo Next or any other book about natural resources that talk about renewable and non-renewable. Students are going to want to complete the renewable and non-renewable worksheet while they watch the video or while you use the other resources. It's a good idea to create an anchor chart about these types of resources, as it would be a good reference tool as you continue on in the unit. There is a resource song that can be sung. Lesson 9, do a review of the renewable and non-renewable resources, maybe sing the resource song. Next, students can take a look at this map and this resource chart to find out about some of the different resources in the United States. There's a couple other options of items you can look at if you need more visuals. You then go back to think about the farm scene with the wind turbines and talk about what kind of resources are present in that photo. This map on slide 22 has items of natural resources available in Iowa. Lesson 10, we talk about wants and needs again, and students can make a list of 10 items they would want to bring along on a trip or vacation. Have students star items that are needs or circle things that are wants and pick the top 2 of each. Next, students would figure out what natural resources are used in order to create their top 2 wants and needs. Then you're going to want to pick one of the types of natural resources and ask students what would happen if that resource ran out. This gives you an opportunity to talk about the concept of scarcity. Chapter 3 lessons are called Caring for Our Planet. We focus on supporting question 3. Students are going to look at what actions people have taken to protect the planet and resources and consider solutions to different problems. Start lesson 11 by displaying supporting question 3 and give students time to brainstorm their responses, maybe with a partner. Review the renewable and non-renewable resources in that anchor chart if you made one, or with the song, and then take a look at the chart on slide 30 and figure out if they're renewable or non-renewable resources. Ask students what happens if any of those resources run out. Then have students start to think about other types of energy options. You can talk about solar panels, electric cars, or reference the farm scene with wind turbines again. Lesson 12 is a good time to read the Lorax and complete a Venn diagram comparing the environment before and after the main part of the story. In lesson 13, you can continue to discuss the Lorax and talk about the natural resources used, what happened to the animals living when the truffula trees were chopped down, why the business failed, again talking about scarcity. You can talk more about deforestation. You can talk about renewable versus non-renewable. You can talk about how regrowing trees takes a lot longer than chopping them down, and that we have to make sure that we're taking steps to replace our renewable resources. Lesson 14 continues along with talking about protecting the environment. So you might want to take a review of deforestation or some other topic that popped up in lesson 13. And then you can take a look at what different people have done to try and make a difference in protecting the earth. There's various resources in here. Students can take a look at these and see what different people have done to try and protect the planet. Lesson 15, there's a slideshow from National Geographic for kids called Kids versus Plastic. And you can ask students what they notice about the pictures and consider whether or not the amount of plastic waste is a problem. This provides time to talk about other types of pollution that are happening. Have students compare what different conservationists would think about pollution today. This really pulls into Standard 21. Lesson 16, we talk about what happens when our want or need for a certain natural resource endangers our other resources. So you could use some information about one of the oil spills. There's some texts on TrueFlix that are really helpful. Have students make a prediction about what could happen in the future if oil drilling stays the same. The answers have to be based on the oil spill example in order to meet Standard 19. Lesson 17, we remind students about supporting question 3. There is a text called One Plastic Bag that can be read. And then move into a discussion on recycling. And there's a great book on BookFlix that helps with that talk. Lesson 18 moves you into the research project, which is the summative. Students are trying to figure out how does the way we live impact our environment, as well as what can I do to help protect our environment. Students should come up with a solution or strategy and make a visual with their solution and present it to others. I hope this video was a helpful resource as you prepare to teach the environmental impact unit. As always, please reach out to your PLC leader, instructional coach, or curriculum facilitator if you have any questions or are in need of any additional support.